Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Left Unread of the year of our Lord, 2024.
2024. What's up, folks?
Yeah, man. This is Evan and I have made.
Big
so
ups,
we're actually
2024.
We started this in 2021.
Yeah.
21 to 22, 22 to 23, 23 to 24. So we're now we'll be entering our fourth year shortly in February. And it's kind of nuts. We've been doing the show for a while, and it's changed a lot, and I think that it's changed for the better. And we've gone through some ups and some downs. We have permanently closed the New Bedford branch of our studios.
Correct.
And
yes, part of the delay is I have relocated and set up shop. We're now multi-state.
Yeah.
We're trans-state.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm broadcasting live, pre-recorded from the beautiful city of Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
One of the most fascist cities in the country.
We're trying something different. Evan's part of the show is pre-recorded, and I'm recording live, trying to match up to the pre-recording.
This is all improv.
This is all improv. Oh, fuck, he just said that. So, okay, we're trying. So you might notice some odd interactions here, but yeah, Evan is now what he's often wanted to be. Evan's had a weird fascination with Rhode Island for a long time, and
I'm now a Rhode Islander.
And you're now a Rhode Islander. And I like that you didn't deny that. You acknowledge that you've had a kind of a Rhode Island fetish, and you're now.
I love coffee milk. I love stuffies. I love, you know what I mean? I love pizza strips.
He's talking about stuffed quahogs, okay, folks? Don't be fucking weird.
Stuffies.
He likes those too, but that's not what he meant, you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that really what it is that you've got this sort of inferiority complex, and the idea of being from like a small, shitty state appeals to you, because then you can, justify.
I feel like we don't need to play armchair psychiatrist, but okay.
So I'd like to talk about your relationship with your dad for a second.
Yeah.
And, no, but I
he's also a big fan of this city.
Yeah, Providence is great. I love Providence. When I'm talking about Rhode Island, 90% of the time, I just mean the capital.
Oh.
And the rest of it, it's fine.
Yeah, but seriously, this state is fascist as shit. Mm-hmm. There's cameras all over the city, and generally in poor neighborhoods too, to just ticket people while they're driving. Now these aren't police tickets, they're civil tickets.
Yeah.
Now here's the big thing, and you'll just be driving, you see a flash behind you. I'm pretty sure I got one the other day, and I was going 33 in a school zone, but it was a Saturday. And there was nobody else on the road. Pretty sure I got a ticket. I haven't seen that yet. Now, here's the thing. These aren't police tickets. And, so they don't count against your driving record. However, I don't know if it's just a Rhode Island thing or Providence, but court fees, you have to pay them even if you win. So the tickets are $50, and then the court fees are $35. If you just accept a ticket, it's $50. If you go to fight the ticket in court and you lose, you have to pay $35 plus $50. And if you win, you just have to pay $35. So they're just fucking ticketing.
Wow, man.
So they're just racking up the bill, just ticketing people in poor neighborhoods constantly. And now the fucking mayor wants to put in more cameras to, I shit you not, fucking ticket people if they honk too loudly. Ticket people if they listen to their music too loudly. Ticket people that get caught in intersections, and they say, well, we'll have people monitoring them. So if it's somebody that aggressively drove into an intersection and got caught, they won't get ticketed. Bullshit. They're just going to ticket everybody.
Interesting.
And it's just they're just trying to rack up all of these fucking all of these ticket fees from poor people.
Wow, that's so odd.
Yeah. These cameras aren't downtown. They're not in any of the business areas. They're in South Providence.
Yeah. Shit. Huh. Yeah, it sounds like it sucks, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I know, and it floods every time it rains too. Mm-hmm. So, and then obviously there's the collapsing bridge that's on 195. That was a national story.
Speaking of, so really quickly, because we've actually got folks. Just so you're prepared before you get too far into this one, we're back to your regularly scheduled programming. I have a written and researched episode here.
Correct.
So don't worry, we're just talking because we like each other now. This isn't we're not stalling for time here.
And I also want the fascist dogs of Providence, Rhode Island, to know I'm coming for them.
Yeah, 100%. And again, he doesn't mean it in the weird way. He's just That's just how Evan talks sometimes.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the locust thing?
No, what?
Okay, so all right, so not locusts. I'm sorry, cicadas, which are some people call locusts in different areas, but they're a different kind of
similar loud flying beetly bug.
Yeah, really loud, and yeah. So cicadas or cicadas, depending on where you are. We always call them cicadas here. I don't know if that's a regional thing or what, but there are many different types. And in Massachusetts, and I think largely in Rhode Island too, we mainly just have annual cicadas. So we get the ones that burrow for a year, and sometimes they're down underground for longer than that, but they don't have they're not on a schedule. So some erupt every year. So we get cicadas every year. But famously, there are types of cicadas, and they may or may not be the same species, but they're divided up along the 13-year and the 17-year cycle broods. And cicadas live in these large broods which cover geographic areas, and they tend when they are of the long nesting variety that's on like a schedule where they all erupt at the same time, either go down for 13 years and stay in their pupal stage before they come out, breed, die, whatever, or 17 years, right? And one geographic area is generally one or the other. Multiple broods don't generally exist in the same area. However, this year, for the first time in 221 years, in the states of Illinois and Wisconsin, both a 17-year and a 13-year brood are erupting in the same summer.
Oh my god!
And so they're predicting Cicada Gate. Yeah, Cicada Geddon 2024. And I have a cousin who lives in Illinois, and I called him, and he seemed really annoyed. I was like, "Hey, man, have you heard about that?" And he's like, "What, the cicadas?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's so crazy. Hasn't happened since 18. What is it? 221 years. So that would be 1803." And he was just like, "Yeah, man, it's probably going to be gross." And I was like, "Yeah, but anyway, no one cares." But it's interesting.
Yeah,
because it doesn't happen very often.
Yep.
And frankly, we don't get any of them in Massachusetts, and I think maybe you do in corners of Rhode Island, or maybe not at all. But so I don't know. Any of our Midwestern listeners, let us know what the deal is. If you're excited or freaked out, because all accounts are that you're going to be using a snow shovel to shovel bug carcasses out of your driveway.
That's gross.
Yeah, super gross. I'm not jealous that I won't be in it.
Yeah. I mean, that was like when we had the gypsy moth caterpillar explosion a few years ago.
Yeah, there was also one when we were kids.
Yeah, there was one when we were kids, and then there was one a few years ago. And I remember because I used to work at this facility, like a research facility, where they couldn't spray the facility with any pesticides whatsoever, like anywhere around it.
Yeah.
And so, like, driving through the parking lot, like, dude, like, you're just fucking, it's just gypsy moth holocaust.
Yeah, you could
just you're just, like, squishing them constantly. Like, you're walking through the parking lot, you couldn't miss them. Like, you were just stepping on them nonstop, just squishing them like fucking
And if you touch those, they give you a rash.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, what was that, 2015? Something like that.
That sounds about right, yeah, because I was with a friend of ours, and he asked me to go for like not even a hike, like a walk on a woodland trail, and we got about 100 yards in, and there were so many moths, because they had...
That was me. I think that was us.
No, it wasn't you. You weren't with me, but it was our other friend.
Oh.
And he was like, "Yeah, I can't do this. Too many bugs. Gotta go." And I was like, "What? It's cool. They're moths. They're beautiful." And he was like...
Was it Destruction Brick Woods? Because I went to go walk on there on like a Friday after work one day.
This was in Taunton.
This was like, I got like 100 yards in, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty vile. I'm going.
Yeah, Destruction Brook Woods was awesome, though. I do miss those days. I haven't been down there. I do go to the Frank Knowles Little River Reserve sometimes. And I won't tell you guys when in case anybody wants to ambush me and kill me because they're a crazed super fan and they want my semen.
Yeah, try to suck your dick at gunpoint.
I've had my dick sucked in those woods.
Yeah.
It was pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, I finger blasted a girl in those woods.
We're both describing the same event from different points of view. I don't know if you guys... Anyway, why don't we start
Yeah, let's just fucking do the show.
All right. So welcome back, folks. It's 2024, and we've, had a lot going on in our lives and haven't been writing and researching episodes for a while. Thank you for bearing with us. We're back. Mongols.
Your boys are back.
Here. I know, and it's exciting. I've got the 6th installment of the Mongols series. I didn't forget about it. I'm not abandoning it. I love this series. It's the best thing I've ever done for this show. So, I've got a really fucking cool one for you this week, and I figure without further ado, unless there's anything you'd like to interject before we do this, you want to just fucking kick it off?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So this week we are returning to the life and times of the mighty Genghis Khan. This episode is a continuation of a series, as I mentioned, that we last visited forever ago in episode 96 of this podcast, which I think was in like September, which is insane. It's recommended, especially with this series, that you listen to them in order, as we won't devote a huge amount of time to recap. And just to remind you all of our series episodes are compiled in the Spotify playlist LU series for ease of access. But we also, within the episodes, tend to reference the last episode in the series. So I should have them in front of me right now. I don't. But the Mongols, actually, I'll just tell you right now, because I have that playlist available to me.
Yes.
So if you wanted to listen to this and you don't have the playlist capabilities, bear with me. Here we go. Episodes 79, 81, 84, 91, and 96. Those are the previous 5 episodes in the Mongols series. And now here we are in episode 108, and we're back. And I'm going to try to do a few of these pretty close together over the next few weeks and kind of wrap this up, because I don't want this to drag out any longer. So here we are. We're back, and we're ready to rock.
Okay. Let's rock.
All right, let's. So our story resumes in 1210 CE, which is once again the Year of the Horse by East Asian reckoning. Now, remember, at the start of our series here, Temujin, our protagonist, was born in the Year of the Horse.
Yep.
Well, that was now 48 years ago, and Temujin, the little boy, that beautiful bouncing baby boy, he's now the man, Genghis Khan.
This middle-aged man.
Yeah, I mean, for 1210, he's definitely more than middle-aged, and he comes from a hard-ass part of the earth. I mean, he's old by a lot of people's reckoning at this point, And
he's doing well for himself.
For a lot of these guys, this is like late-stage career shit. He's done it, right? Yep. If you're a step Khan from any other time and place, you've made it happen. You've beaten all your rivals. You're the undisputed lord of your area, and nobody's fucking with you. But hopefully by now you've all gathered, and you, Evan, have gathered that this guy is built different. I mean, you've heard of him, right? He's famous for a reason.
Yep.
So it's been roughly 4 years since the unification and foundation of the new Mongol Ulus, or Mongol nation, which we explored in depth in the last installment of this series back in September. That episode focused almost exclusively on civil and military reforms instituted by the Khan following his unification of the northern steppe.
Yep.
And while stuff like that is super interesting, and I felt really necessary, let's be real. We're doing a series about Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire. You want what I want. You want conquest. You want glorious battle. You want bloodshed. You want violence. Well, you're in luck, because as it turns out, Genghis Khan wants those things too. You see, he might be the new big man in his little slice of the world, but that doesn't mean that he's a true big baller yet. In fact, the moves that he's been making have aroused the interest of a powerful neighbor to the south, perhaps his strongest rival yet, the Golden Khan of the Jurched. Now, the Jurched are a nomadic people, much like the Mongols, though for nearly a century they have adapted to the posh life of sedentary rulers of a kingdom in what is now northern China and Inner Mongolia, which is part of northern China. So you'll hear me kind of refer to it as both. Yeah. Having long exercised control over the northern steppe tribes through their mastery over trade routes and the flow of goods north from China, the Jurcheds expect submission from any upstart Khan making a name for themselves up in those necks of the woods. That neck of the woods? That neck of the woods.
Yeah, that neck.
Those necks, up in those necks.
Yeah. Getting up in those necks, dude.
This puny Genghis Khan will be no different. He will bend the knee, acknowledge his place, just as those before him have done, and the northern borders will remain secure. At least, that's what the Jurched think.
Yeah. He's not going to be the one getting on his knees.
No, I don't know. Not unless there's some fucking booty.
Yeah. Unless he's eating their ass, you know what I mean?
Unless he's going to dive headfirst into some fucking butt. Let's talk a little bit about the Jurched, because they're kind of interesting. Yes. So in 1210, which is the year we're in, the year of the horse, 4th year of the new Mongol Ulus, the Golden Khan of the Jurched Kingdom sends a delegation north to the realm of Genghis Khan. A new Golden Khan had ascended to the throne of the Jurched Kingdom, and it's the perfect opportunity to establish ties with this new northern lord, Genghis Khan or whatever, and let him know what the established order was and has been for the previous century. The Jurched, who will centuries later be known as the Manchus, and will rule the Qing dynasty of China. So the Jurched are also a big deal. Like, they stick around in this region, and the name changes, and they become known as the Manchus, but same people. Mm-hmm. And we talked about them in our episodes about the Opium War, the Qing dynasty. So
way back when.
That's them. A long time ago. And I think later in this script I write down the specific episode.
I was like back in Left Unread Mark 1 days.
Yeah, that was Mark 1. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So they had swept forth from the forests of Manchuria nearly a century before in 1125 CE and conquered a vast swath of land in what is now northern China. They conquered this land from the Khitan, who we have mentioned briefly in previous episodes, who ruled the what is now often known as the Liao dynasty, but we'll refer to that in the episode as the Khitans, because sometimes when we use like the later Chinese nomenclature for these dynasties, it gets a little confusing, and for our purposes, I don't know, I think it's worthwhile to kind of make it clear that these were not native dynasties, and in a lot of the source material that I'm using, that's how they're referred to. Also worth noting, the Jurchen or the Jurched dynasty that we will refer to as like the Jurched Kingdom or the Jurched dynasty throughout most of the episode has also later been known as the Jin dynasty or the Great Jin dynasty. So if you're looking this up, a lot of these different dynasties have many different names, and Chinese sources would later give them often like posthumous. The emperors would often get like posthumous Chinese names, and the dynasties would get Chinese names. So it gets a little confusing. So to keep things simple, I'm just going to refer to them as the Jurcheds, because the ruling people were Jurcheds. But you could also find this under the Great Jin, or the Jin dynasty. And China's history prior to this has been kind of nuts. It's not as cut and dry as people sometimes think with like, like set dynasties. There's lots of warring kingdom periods and eras where, foreign or non-Han ethnic groups took control and whatever. And that just sort of stretches all the way back to the Han dynasty, which is sort of the last time that the closest that you come prior to this with like all of, or most of, modern China being unified under one state. They did this in keeping with a centuries-old tradition of tribal peoples in this region growing in power, seizing control of the region, becoming sedentary and weak and rich and fat, and then eventually themselves being conquered by another hungry, young, still strong and kick-ass tribal, group that came in. Yep. So from their capital city in Zhongdu, which is modern-day Beijing, the Jurched ruled a prosperous kingdom which was perfectly poised as a sort of buffer between the brutal steppes of the north, which Genghis Khan has come to dominate, and the civilized, effete lands of the Song dynasty in the south, sometimes known as the Southern Song or the Southern Song, which would seem more recognizably Chinese to modern observers. That's the dynasty that's sort of the inheritor of, 1,000 years of Chinese history. Those Su Shenyun is going to dance about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not
5,000
getting too
years
soaked
of civilization reborn.
Now,
well,
there are still Han Chinese people, the people that we would think of as, quote unquote, ethnically Chinese. Now, China is filled with many, many, many different ethnic groups. But the largest and most dominant and what we would think of as, quote unquote, ethnically Chinese, the Han, they're still all over this region, and many of the subjects of the Jurcheds are Han Chinese, but the ruling dynasty are these steppe people, these Manchurian Jurched nomads. So the Jurcheds themselves, they formed the elite of the kingdom. But everything else under them was just peasants. And some of these were, as I said, Han Chinese. Some of these were Khitan people who are still living there and used to be in control, and they're kind of now chafing under the yoke of these new rulers. Also people from all sorts of different ethnic groups. There are people that would seem more like Mongols, whatever. But they're largely a sedentary peasant farming population. So they're not still living a traditional nomadic life. Their kingdom, with roughly 50 million inhabitants in 1210, was massive by any estimate, though still slightly smaller than the southern Song, which boasted approximately 60 million inhabitants. So at this point, this part of the world contains, between the southern Song and the Jurched kingdom, contains like something like 1/5 to 2/5 of the people on the planet, to give you perspective. It's a lot of people.
Jesus.
Yeah, huge. So
Very
now
large.
that you know that. Okay, got it. Good.
Did you see, by the way, the addition I've made?
Yeah, what is it, John McCain and Sarah Palin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kick-ass, dude. Sarah Palin would have been the hottest vice president ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Would've.
just putting it out there.
Yep.
tell you
Instead,
who
it's
isn't.
still Joe Biden.
I'll tell you who isn't the fucking hottest president ever.
Actually, no, it's Spiro Agnew.
Yeah, Spiro's a good call. He had the hairline of all hairlines, man. That was an interesting look.
Yeah.
So with this large population of 50 million people, give or take, came a super large standing army with which they exercised control over the region. However,
Yes.
as the Jurched Khan and Genghis Khan both understood, their true power comes not from their military might, but from their control over the flow of goods from the Song in the south to the steppe in the north. They sit right in between those who would consider themselves more civilized and those who they would consider less civilized. And they control the spigot that allows silks and wood and gold and spices and whatever else you can fucking imagine, manufactured goods from the south to the north.
They control the spigot
Yeah,
and whether or not it flows or not.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the fact that the Mongols and their subordinates on the steppe are not manufacturers. They're not making... I mean, they're very ingenuitive. They're making things, but it's anything that's not made from, like, wood or animal parts or bone, which is an animal part. They're not really doing it. They're not metal workers. They're not doing any kind of prefabricated anything. Everything's pretty simple. And they can make brilliant stuff, and it works really well. But it's not pretty. They don't do the art thing, really. They're kind of just like, they're doing what they got to do to survive, right?
They're artists with the recurve bow.
Oh, yeah. Their bows are magnificent.
That's
Splendid.
their artwork. Their artwork is killing you.
Yep. Yep. And killing you with panache.
Yeah, with flair.
Ongkan, who you might remember from previous episodes, who had been the adopted father of Temujin, and at his time was the most powerful steppe Khan, had kowtowed to the Golden Khan of the Jurched to ensure a steady supply of trade goods and wealth from the south. And yeah, it had paid off. Ongkan had indeed been rich and powerful by the standards of a steppe Khan. Sort of like I said at the start, like, by most, throughout most of history, Genghis Khan has sort of made it. He's sort of reached the top. No one else is really reaching higher than what he's got. So if that's like as high as you aim, then yeah, he's looking pretty good, and Ongkan was looking pretty good. But Genghis Khan clearly has higher ambitions. His masterful rise to power and the reforms of the past 4 years sort of say as much about him. So while he clearly saw himself as something more than the petty rulers that came before him, he also understood that the primary function of a steppe Khan is to lead his people to victory in battle and to secure for them all of the goods that they need, not only to survive, but also to prosper. They want that stuff. It's not like the Mongols don't know there's good shit down south. Just because they don't make it doesn't mean they don't want it. You know what I mean? I don't know how to make an iPhone.
Yeah.
So we can all kind of sympathize with this.
Yep.
They've got that consumer mindset.
Yeah.
Really
untapped markets.
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
In the north.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The difference is they didn't really consider what if we just worked hard and spent all of our money on this stuff. They took a more direct approach. So the survival and prosperity of his people was his chief earthly duty as a Khan. And in the pursuit of this, he had kind of two choices in front of him.
Yep.
The delegation that has now arrived from the Jurched Golden Khan presents one. You can bow to us as Ong Khan did before you. You can come to Zhongdu. You can prostrate yourself before the magnificent Golden Khan. Accept him as your better and the master of your people. Admit that you are his slave and servant. And we might toss you the scraps from our table as you rule your northern shithole.
No.
Yeah, get your knee pads on.
Yeah, start sucking.
And Genghis Khan knew how to kowtow. And for those of you who don't know, kowtowing isn't just a term. It's a specific thing. It's bowing and literally touching your head to the floor, like prostrating yourself as low as possible. It's the traditional way of bowing before an East Asian monarch. Literally getting yourself as low as possible, touching your head to the floor.
For our weekly reference to Crusader Kings, there was an expansion for CK2 that allowed you to kowtow yourself to the Chinese emperor as one of the things. China didn't become part of the map. However, you could have diplomacy with China, and one of the little event options that you could have would be to kowtow to the emperor of China.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
they liked that. And so Genghis Khan knew how to do this, right? He's had some ups and downs in life. He's scraped, he's groveled. He did it, if you might recall, before the great mountain Burkhan Khaldun and the eternal blue sky, when he was trying to figure out what he should do about rescuing Borte, his wife.
Yep.
And he had sworn himself in service to Ong Khan. And heck, he'd even been a slave for a little while. Remember that?
Yep, I do.
But now he's nearly 50 years old. His joints probably aren't feeling that great. He'd been proclaimed the master of his people by a Kurultai and had devoted himself to strengthening and improving the new Mongol nation ever since. He'd brought others under his wing, too. Siberian tribes to the north, Koreans to the east, to the west, the Uyghurs, and more recently the Tanguts, who are a Tibetan people who had provided the Great Khan with his first real experience in conquering cities. So if option A was to prostrate himself before the Golden Khan and to beg for mercy, he's not really liking the sound of option A. Unfortunately, though, an unforeseen side effect of his unification of the steppe tribes is that it had halted the periodic raiding into southern lands that had brought that trickle of goods up from the south, right? Like, now that everyone's under his control, people aren't just doing what they want, they're doing what he wants. And he hasn't been letting people go off doing raids. So he's like, okay, well, we need the riches. The raiding
spigot has turned closed.
Yeah, the spigot's closed. And so we got to look for option B. And what's option B?
Open the spigot again.
Yeah, and how are you going to open it?
Have
with the bow, buddy. With the bow and the horse. And the fucking power of the Mongol horde.
You're going to have to let the artists use their tools,
so
to speak.
Yeah. They don't like to paint.
Yeah.
They don't sculpt.
Nope, not really into sculpting.
But they can shoot a bird out of the sky on a cloudy day.
No, not doing too much metallurgy.
No, they're not smoking reefer.
Yeah,
they might have been, actually. I don't. That's a good point. I don't know if they were.
Yeah.
I bet they would have if they had it, though. The Mongols seem like they would have been fucking crazy to party with.
Yeah, dude, just taking a hit of the cosmic joint and then raiding.
Dream blunt rotation. It's just you and Genghis Khan just facing the blunt together.
Just four Genghis Khans.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Next to
So, as I mentioned before the Jurched had conquered their kingdom, these lands had been ruled by a branch of the Khitan people. Now, the Khitan are much closer culturally and ethno-linguistically to the Mongols than the Jurched. And when Genghis Khan assumed power, Khitan nobles began defecting from the Jurched kingdom, but also sort of reaching out to him from the Khitan lands on the other side of the river and petitioning the Khan to invade on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, he refused, because he was kind of like, I don't necessarily like that, like, I don't want to do this for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it made sense for me, maybe I would, but I don't know. However, now it's 1210, and the old Golden Khan has died, and his young son has ascended the throne, and he's decided to send this delegation north, and they're demanding that Genghis Khan kowtow before him and assume his whatever rightful place as a slave to the Jurched. And so, yeah, maybe he would have considered some sort of negotiation or trade, but a demand? An order? You're going to order Genghis Khan to come bow to you? No, he doesn't do that anymore.
What have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectfully?
Yeah. And haven't you heard?
Yeah.
He's not doing that anymore. That's not his thing anymore. He doesn't do that.
You don't even think to call me Godfather?
So the secret history of the Mongols states that upon receiving his orders, which is ballsy, from the Jurched emissary, Genghis turned south towards Jurched lands and spit on the ground. And then he started cussing out the Jurcheds and their lame-ass Bronze Khan or Tin Khan or whatever he calls himself.
No.
And then he hopped on his horse right in front of the emissaries and galloped off towards the north, covering the sputtering diplomats in a cloud of good old-fashioned steppe dust.
Yeah.
And everyone understood, no one was confused by this gesture. In steppe warlord speak, this means, I'm going to fucking come kick your ass. I'm going to fight you. Right?
It's on.
But before he goes to war, he has to maintain the precedent that he himself has set, that any major decision like this should be decided by a Kurultai. So in 1211, he summons one at his home base on the Kerlen River.
Yeah.
So everybody knows the issue at hand. Word's gotten around. Genghis is it's like in the Matrix when it's like Morpheus is fighting Neo. It's like that. Everyone's like, yo, he's gonna go fight fucking the Golden Khan.
Oh, shit.
Right?
Yeah.
So when he calls a Kurultai, nobody has any doubt what the issue at hand is. And if you guys will remember, a Kurultai is just a big meeting, showing up as a yes vote, not showing up as a no vote.
It's a big circle jerk on the steppe.
Yeah, and if enough people show up, you start talking shop, you make plans to do whatever it is you're voting on. You have feast, you party, and then you go and you do the thing.
Yep.
So merely attending is tantamount to a vote in favor of war. Now, one of the amazing things about Genghis Khan is also kind of on the surface one of the most contradictory. So for somebody who's going to be responsible for like an unprecedented degree of death and human suffering, like on a global scale, the lives of his own people and those that are sworn to his service, those that are already under his protection, have always been of paramount importance to him. And so he didn't demand that his armies die for him. He insisted, rather, that they fight to survive and to live. Conversely, even the lowliest member of the horde had some sort of voice in deciding whether to fight or not to fight. And once the matter was decided, they were expected to obey his orders without question. But until the matter is final, their lives are their own. They can decide to vote against, and if people don't show up, he doesn't go to war. But I think he kind of knows. He's a critical darling. People are really riding high on Genghis Khan right now. They're liking his shit. They're digging what he's been doing. And frankly, he's been racking up dubs. He's got a pretty sterling record up to this point. So I think he kind of has a good idea that folks are going to show up. They like the way he handled those diplomats. It was very Mongol of him. They're like, you hear he fucking spit and then he fucking rode away right in their face? Fucking hell yeah, dude.
I saw him spit. I
saw it happen, dude. I felt the spray in the wind.
Yeah, I was part of the spit.
Yeah, dude.
I was so sick. Spit. It was fucking heady, dude. Honestly, though, brief aside, dude, Kurultai must have been so fucking dope.
Yeah, man. It would have probably been crazy. I feel like it would have potentially been really violent and scary sometimes.
Yeah, it would have been sick.
Not under Genghis Khan, though, now that I think of it. Like, he definitely, people respected his shit. And it probably would have been cool, yeah. If there's a period of time I could go back to and, like, witness, it would be this. Like, I would go back to see this stuff in a second. But I would also need to understand, like, Middle Mongolian and all kinds of
Yeah.
I don't know. But it would be cool. It'd be cool as hell.
Yeah. I would not go anywhere in Europe in the Middle Ages.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It'd be gross and stinky.
Kurultai's now, at this point in the story, might have been fine. Kurultai's by the end of this episode, that's where shit started to get extravagant. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, once it became kind of clear that there were enough people there, public discussions took place, held according to the decimal ranking system that the Great Khan had implemented. So if you remember, everything is groups of 10. So you yourself, as a member of his horde, belong to a group of 10 men, and you're led by one of you. And then that group of 10 is grouped up in 10 groups of 10. It's a group of 100, and so on and so forth. All the way up to the top, it's 10,000, that's an army. So higher-ranking men would meet and discuss plans, and then they're expected to go back to their lower-down ranking group and explain the situation and discuss it with them, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the bottom. So in this way, every member of the army is informed as to the goals and the purpose behind basically every battle, or at least every war that they're fighting. Yeah. Also, he was sure to invite Uyghurs and his new Tangut friends and their delegations to the Kurultai to make it clear that they also had a voice and were privy to discussion if they were to be summoned to fight for their new Khan. So once it seemed clear that the men were with him, the Khan retreats to meditate and fast on a nearby mountain for guidance from Tengri, the eternal blue sky.
Yes.
Similarly, all those who gathered, in addition to the Khan, they removed their hats and their sashes, the two symbols of manhood, and they fasted for 3 days, awaiting their Khan to return from the mountaintop. On the fourth day, Genghis Khan returned with the promise of the eternal blue sky. The Mongols would have victory and vengeance. So having received word that the Mongols were mobilizing for war, word has it that the Jurched court openly mocked the notion. And so here I'm going to quote from Jack Weatherford. "Our empire is like the sea. Yours is but a handful of sand," a Chinese scholar recorded the Jurched Khan as saying in reference to Genghis Khan. "How can we fear you?" he asked. And he would soon have his answer.
Yeah, he would soon fear him.
Yeah.
The fear's coming.
Oh, yeah, this guy might not... Whatever, we'll see. So the Mongol army that marched south to attack the Jurched was a very different and much improved force than that which had won the Khan his earlier victories. For one, they had swelled in number, not only with conquered tribes like the Naiman and the Tartar people, but also new Uyghur allies and the recently conquered Tanguts. To talk a little bit about the Tanguts, just because it's kind of relevant to the rest of this campaign. Between 1207 and 1209, and remember, present day at this point in the story is 1211, so just a few years prior, Genghis Khan had waged war against the Tangut, who were a Tibetan people from the west in what is now Gansu province, China. Their army was twice as strong as the army the Khan brought against them, and they occupied fortified cities, which is something that Genghis Khan had never encountered in battle before. Or maybe actually just encountered in his life. Siege technology was obviously well established elsewhere in the world by the 13th century, but was basically totally unknown to the Mongols. No experience with it. So they had been forced to improvise. Now, famously, they had attempted to divert the flow of the Yellow River to flood the Tangut capital, and had inadvertently flooded their own camp instead. Which is kind of a disaster. They felt a little silly doing that. But rather than admit defeat, they had instead buckled down and perfected this technique. They would go on to conquer that city, and then they keep doing this. This becomes like a classic Mongol move. Are you a city near a river? Are the Mongols approaching? Better check your shit. They're going to divert that river. 100% of the time. They're going to do it. You're not going to know what to do about it. It's just going to work. It's going to work every time. And this is just an example of like the Mongols, what they're really good at. They don't invent stuff, but they sure do adopt things. They're not... They're not prissy about, taking other people's ideas, and they don't even feel like they need to pretend they were their own ideas. They're like, yo, that was a great idea. I'm going to use that respectfully.
Yeah.
And they do.
Respectfully, I will do that shit.
That shit looked really cool. I'm going to do that shit. And they do it. They do it all the time. It's kind of what they're best at. So they had gone on to subdue the Tanguts, who are now marching beside them against the Jurched. And they brought with them more advanced knowledge of siege warfare. So when they were fighting the Tanguts, they encountered their first taste of Chinese engineering, which the Tongguts had some access to. Things like catapults, etc., etc. And we'll get more into that, later when they come in. But so now their first hurdle in conquering the Jurcheds was to conquer the Gobi Desert, which is sort of the physical land barrier between Mongolia proper and what's now known as Inner Mongolia, which is northern China.
Yeah, Inner Mongolia is part of China, folks.
Yeah. Now, so that spreads between the steppe where Genghis Khan is from and this sort of southern region where the Jurcheds rule. Now, the Mongol army was ideally suited to long travel over rough, inhospitable terrain, and they proved this in their Gobi crossing. So, the Jurcheds, I think, were kind of hoping that the Gobi Desert would be this sort of barrier, but the Mongols are just like, I don't know, man, cold, hot, it's kind of the same fucking thing. Like, let's just do this shit. And part of why that was so easy for them is that each man carried on his person basically everything needed for survival on his own, including items to repair or make new equipment for himself. Yep. And their army is also entirely made up of cavalry. They don't have infantry, which is sort of unique to armies of this period, and it allows for an unprecedented degree of mobility. So the Mongol army that set out on the Jurched campaign is approximately 65,000 men strong, entirely mounted. By contrast, the Jurched had at least that many cavalry, and then on top of that, another 80 to 90,000 infantry. However, infantry is slow, and sedentary armies, even their cavalry, require complicated baggage trains and supply routes to function. I mean, remember, these Jurcheds have had 100 years to forget what it meant to fucking be barbarians out in the woods.
Yeah.
The Mongols, they haven't forgotten.
They don't got to worry about supply routes.
They're still about that life. They don't bother with supply routes. They don't fucking bother with that shit.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have probably heard Marco Polo's Mongol Polo. Famously heard Marco Polo's assertion that a Mongol army could travel for 10 days without stopping to make camp. This is probably an exaggeration, but the Mongols loved that. The Mongols loved when people made shit up about them because they were like, yeah, dude, make us sound as gangster as possible. Yeah. No problems. They would do it about themselves. They made up lies about themselves all the time. So a lot of the things you've heard, like the horrible ways they executed people, whatever, it's probably calculated propaganda, but they did that shit often enough in real life that, like, people believed the stories.
Lying is cool and good.
Yeah, dude. And we'll talk about that, but the Mongols believed that.
Yeah.
If the end result is a win, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Oh, we're lying? Okay, prove us wrong.
Yeah, right? So it is true, even though it might not have been 10 days, that the average Mongol soldier was incredibly just physically healthy and robust compared to his southern counterparts. Mm-hmm. So they carried water and dehydrated milk paste with them at all times, as well as dried meat to chew on. And with those three things, they could generally go days pretty comfortably without a meal. Also, when they had access to fresh meat, but not time to cook it, they would just leave it under their saddle so it got all smushed and tender. And then they would just eat that because they were fucking freaks, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot ass meat.
Yeah.
So they subsisted almost entirely on protein-rich
just
meat.
fucking ripping ass into your
dude.
into
drilling
the
farts
tenderloins.
into your fucking your cube steak.
Yeah.
So their diet was basically entirely meat, milk, yogurt, just protein. And so the average Mongol had like super strong teeth and bones. You know, they didn't have like a mouthful of rotten teeth. They had good teeth.
Yeah.
Strong bones. They were muscular.
Well-toothed people.
Yeah. Yeah, they were good. They were living a good life, dude. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, armies in the South and the peasantry in general and agricultural
eating
societies,
their sweets and pastries and getting all fucking rotten-ass, nasty
They wish, dude. They were just straight up eating gruel for like almost every meal for their whole life. Just like millet paste, rice. That's kind of it, dude. Just all day, every day grain, which made their teeth shitty, and they were just tired, and they were susceptible to disease. They had to eat 3 square meals a day to have enough energy to get up. Fuck the paleo diet. You want to get on the Mongol horse warrior diet. Yeah. These dudes were just straight up.
Meat, milk, and yogurt.
Even their booze was milk, dude. Like they were just straight up meat and milk dudes. That was it.
Yeah. We're the meat and milk boys.
Talk about the Go-Mad diet. They were just a gallon of raw horse milk a day. Every day.
Yeah, these dudes are on the diet of like the grossest, loudest, sweatiest dude at the gym.
Yeah, 100%. And they were like, this is how a man lives. Like that's it, dude.
Just eating raw ass steak, dude.
Yeah. And they were probably like, you wouldn't have wanted to fight any of these guys.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, like, I'm probably a foot taller than every single person we're talking about in this story.
Yeah.
I would not have fought a fucking Mongol to save my life. Like a random
After
Mongol.
the age of like 12.
Yeah, just a random Mongol would fuck your shit up. They were scary.
Yeah.
They were
These
scary
dudes are probably
people.
dense, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
man.
just all muscle.
And they're like, what do you do for fun? Hunt, wrestle, fucking go to war. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, kidnap women. Like, they're just...
Shoot a bow like hundreds of feet.
Yeah, just practice the one thing
Yeah.
I'm excellent at already. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, the army is extremely mobile, and the individual people and then the decimal unit systems were basically self-sufficient. They're not really requiring any of the infrastructure needed for standing armies, as they would spread out really far and just kind of hunt and raid for food as they went.
Yeah.
So when they did have to light fires, they did it at dusk, which I think is really smart. So it's too light for the fires to be like readily visible, but it's too dark for the smoke to be visible. So they would just kind of light and cook at twilight, and then they would extinguish, and then they would disperse. They didn't sleep around the fire. They didn't even sleep with each other. They would all just go sleep separately. So you couldn't really ambush like a Mongol army camp, because generally it didn't exist. There just wasn't one.
Yeah.
You know, and they're strung out across miles and miles of open country. And again, because every soldier was kept abreast of strategies and plans, coordination is just easier. Even spread this far apart, everybody knows ultimately, like, hey man, we're trying to go fight the Jurchad, so head south until someone tells you otherwise, you know?
Just follow the sound of horse.
Yeah, man.
Galloping.
Yep. If ever you feel like you're no longer part of the horde, then you should be worried, because, you know, just stay in this general direction.
Yep.
So obviously there were times when orders did need to be changed and passed along. And this was done in a pretty simple but an ingenious manner, just verbally. Because basically everyone in the Mongol army is illiterate. There isn't even a standardized Mongol script yet. That's something
These are the elite men. Like these are like the perfect example of a man. Fucking just, you don't even know how to read.
No distractions, dude.
Nothing, dude.
They're
It's just
when
all
it's nighttime,
focus.
it's like, oh, well, time to go to bed. Morning time, time to go to war. Nighttime, bed again. You want to get drunk this time? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I got some fermented milk over there.
You want to maybe fight me naked first? Yeah, sounds pretty kick-ass.
Let's do it, man.
I mean?
Yeah, I got like a few minutes to kill before bed, before I wake up to do more killing.
I got all this yogurt energy I got to burn off.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that I consume that isn't dairy is, it's just the meat I've got in my saddle.
Yeah, it's warm ass meat. So
I've just been tenderizing. Yeah.
So verbal orders, even though, you know, theoretically verbal orders are highly fallible, right? We've all played the game Telephone. You remember that in school?
Well,
the message that starts is never the message you get at the end.
And you always get this one little fucking runt who's
some kid
just
wants to change it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that just changes it completely.
Yeah. Well, I think he said stinky
You can see
farts.
they're like conspiring. Like, yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Johnson is stupid and fat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Oh, you want to say that? Well, it's the message.
Yeah. Mrs. Bender keeps beans in her shoes.
So the Mongols solved the problem of the highly fallible verbal message by conforming their orders to a fixed set of rhyming melodies and couplets that are easily memorized by every soldier because they're tunes that they already know. So soldiers everywhere and people just out doing a job in general like to sing while they work or march.
Yeah.
And the Mongols are no different. However, in addition to singing about the usual stuff like boobies and gold, they also sang their codes of law and conduct, which had been turned into songs for ease of memorization by a largely illiterate population.
These are the ultimate men, dude.
Dude, they rock.
Even their songs have like utility.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of their songs were just like, and I fucked a girl from the steppe the other day. But a lot of their songs are just like, remember, don't steal. Remember, don't kill. Genghis Khan is the Lord of us all. Like, it's just what they're doing, man. So military orders were set to the existing melodies of these commonly known songs. And so for a soldier, even a common soldier, remembering orders to pass along is really just as simple as like learning a new verse to a song that you already know and love.
Yeah.
So Mongols on the March are fucking awesome. And they had no problem. They made it. They made it all the way to the Jurchad lands. No desertions, no loss, relatively few. And here they are, ready to fucking fight. And the Jurchad's like,
this sounds like it would be the time of your life doing this. So why would you?
Yeah, it sounds killer. It sounds killer.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's like a vacation for them. And you know what? Surprisingly, it's going to kind of turn out to be that way. Like, they're not going to have a hard time at all. So upon reaching Jurched lands, the Mongol campaign began in earnest. And it's going to kind of set the tone for basically all future Mongol conquests against foreign foes. They will fight different cultures and different types of armies. But the basic model that they use in conquering the Jurched is going to kind of set the tone for everything to come. So I'm going to go into a fair amount of detail here, and then in the future we won't have to talk about this stuff quite as much when we talk about fighting, Khwarizm and whatever, Cairo and shit, or Baghdad rather. They never made it to Cairo. Baghdad, whatever. We're not going to talk about as much detail because there's a lot more conquests to come. But we are going to go into it here because I just think it kind of is important. So here is how Genghis Khan, in a nutshell, we're going to describe the ways in which he was so adept at warfare despite being outnumbered and in an unfamiliar territory. So firstly, and we've talked about this already, but just to reiterate, he knew and trusted all of his officers personally. Some, like Burchu and Jelme, we've been talking about since way back in episode 3, right? He's known these guys since they were fucking kids. 40 years, some of these people, So he also knows and values and recognizes their strengths and their weaknesses. So he makes sure to assign men to tasks that are well suited to them, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to just like, these are my orders, everyone do things the way that I like it done. Nah, man. Burchu might be a little more cautious than Jelme, so Burchu gets like the, sneak attacks and Jelme gets the ambushes. You know what I mean? It's just, he likes to do, those are kind of the same thing, sneak attacks and ambushes.
Yeah, sneak attacks and ambushes are the same thing.
Whatever, fill in the blanks, who gives a fuck? We keep
one has to do the harassing of supply lines, the other one,
You know what I mean? Like, it's just hit and runs, and they're doing different things based on what they're good at.
Yep.
And that's why he likes them. He likes that they're different. He doesn't want them all to be the same. Because if they're all the same, then the enemy can predict what he's going to do. He also trusts them. When he gives them an order, he lets them fucking take care of it. He knows how to delegate. He knows his plans are good. He trusts his men. He delegates. Brilliant. Yes. He's the fucking balls, this guy. He also understood the importance of preserving the lives of his men, who could not be easily replaced, especially in foreign lands, right? They're not from this huge population of people. Basically, every Mongol man is in the army already. Mm-hmm. So if they all die, you don't have another army. This is it. This is what I got. If he could have brought more, he would have. Instead, he's outnumbered more than 2-1 as it is. So he's got to make do. He's got to keep these guys alive. So he tries to win as many battles as possible without firing a single shot. Now, the Mongols had some experience fighting city dwellers, but they initially lacked the siege weaponry to knock down walls and scale them, etc., etc. And they are going to sort of pick that up over this campaign. Yeah. But so they rely on scare tactics and guerrilla warfare, and they're really ingenuitive in the way that they conquer cities. So what they would do, knowing that people were shut up behind their walls, they would swoop in and they would terrorize the countryside, and then they would just dip before anybody could come out and counter them. So before they'd even arrived in any of the densely populated areas, people have started to trickle into the cities telling horror stories about the fucking Mongols and how they came out of nowhere and nothing could stop them, and they were like a natural disaster, and they were terrifying and whatever.
Their dicks are all at least 10 inches long.
Yeah, dude, it's like all they eat is fucking yogurt, dude. Like, I don't know what's up with these hogs on these guys.
They got these yogurt-filled hogs.
And so they moved to undermine the existing authority of the Jurched rulers in several ways. First, before doing anything else, they send emissaries to the dispossessed Khitan, who had previously ruled these lands, and they link up with the Yelu dynasty, who had been the royal dynasty of the Khitan, and they promise them a chunk of their land back in return for aid. And obviously they find enthusiastic support, so immediately their numbers are bolstered. They've got all these new Khitans signing up to fight with them. And also, eventually they'll start to have like Han Chinese people defecting to them too. They find one young member of the Yelu family, a guy named Yelo Chukai, who became an invaluable asset to the Khan. He could speak Khitan, which is mutually intelligible with the Mongol language, but he also spoke Chinese and was well versed in Chinese politics and philosophy. So this bolstered what would become a long-standing tradition in Mongol conquests. Find every single smart and useful person you can and get them on your side, whatever means necessary. Hire them, kidnap them, whatever you got to do. If they've got someone smart that you can use and you think you can fucking get them on your side, do it. It's worth it. It's worth it every time.
Yep.
So the Mongols, who may not have been particularly technologically advanced themselves, proved really, really eager students and fast learners, and they adapt ideas with incredible speed and efficiency. Also, there was this rule. They are forbidden during all of this to discuss death or defeat openly with each other, with outsiders, anywhere. Warriors are expected to live as if they were immortal because Genghis Khan wanted them to survive. He didn't want them to die, and he didn't want any defeatist fucking bullshit going around the camp. So he's like, what are you talking about? We literally can't lose.
Yeah.
What do you mean 2-1? I love those odds. 2-1? Yeah. That's it?
We got them right when we fucking
won. Dude, are you kidding me?
I thought we were going to be 4-1.
2-1? I love having two pussies for every one of me. That shit's gangster, right? Dude.
Yep.
So...
Yeah. If I had any wish, what would it be? 2 warriors at the same time.
Yeah, I believe you can get your ass kicked saying something like that, dude.
I'd kill 2 warriors at the same time.
They didn't even discuss if they had casualties in a battle. It's a serious taboo. Their purpose is not to die for the Khan. To reiterate, their purpose is to live, and they're living to pursue one goal and one goal only. It's the only goal worth pursuing. Mm-hmm. Total victory. So, as Jack Weatherford, who I use a lot for this series, puts it, the Mongols did not find honor in fighting. They found honor in winning. So, we've talked about like the Japanese, for example, who found honor in all kinds of fucking wishy-washy ways. Like, there can be honor in defeat. Oh, you can die an honorable death. Nope, Mongols don't believe in any of that. Did you win? No. Honor. Did you lose? No honor. Combat is not honorable unless it ensures victory. Conversely, if victory could be achieved without combat through diplomacy, trickery, deception, the honor of that victory is not diminished in any capacity, nor do the tactics used to obtain victory stain the personal honor of the soldiers involved. Because they know they're going to have plenty of opportunities to show that they can fucking fight and win the old-fashioned way. They know they're good at that. So there's no like, we got to prove that we're men. No, they know they're men. They know what's up. They know that they can do whatever the fuck they need to do. So if they can win without fighting, that's cool too. Yep. Similarly,
you can still join the honor dead and Stovo Corps that way.
Exactly. Similarly, no honor could be gained.
No honor.
No honor could be gained from personal valor or achievement in battle if that battle had ended in loss. The end always is the only justification for the means. And so this meant that no man is incentivized to act stupidly for personal glory or to the detriment of his unit. You're not going to see a lot of Pickett's charges going on in the Mongol Wars because that's fucking stupid. No suicide charges, none of that. If you can fucking win, win. If you can't, run away. Like, don't be a fucking idiot. You know what I mean?
They're not going to catch you.
Yeah, they're not going to catch us. We're faster than the fucking wind. So, and also we can shoot behind us. So, hopefully they do chase us. That's one of their favorite tactics.
Yeah, actually, if they chase us, that actually kind of...
That fucking kicks ass, dude.
That increases our chances of winning.
So, and we'll talk about that, too, because that's one of their favorite tactics. And so this is where their psychological warfare, like the Undertaker, really gets put to amazing use. Now, the Mongols set out to turn the Jurched huge population into their biggest liability, and they do so with really startling and kind of terrifying effect. So the peasants they encounter were conscripted into a mobile labor force. I was going to say a mobile laser force. That would have been cool, too.
Let's give the Mongols lasers. Let's see how far they can go.
We'd probably be speaking Mongol right now.
That'd be cool.
If the Mongols had guns, dude, we'd be speaking Mongol.
Oh, dude, yeah, just a Mongol horde coming at you with like a fucking...
Yeah. Nothing even crazy. Muskets. If you gave them muskets, it would have been a fucking lights-out nightmare. Yeah. Actually, I'm sure their bows were probably better than muskets. Like, the problem with the bows is that they're not good in certain weather, but...
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll see that. We'll see that later. So... They conscript these peasants into doing everything from, like, digging latrines to feeding and finding and watering animals to literally just being human shields in battle. To the Mongols, seeing these peasants who, like, lived in fields and just ate vegetables all day and kind of were lethargic and shitty and stupid and had to be commanded in everything they did.
No yogurt?
They were basically livestock, and they called them goats. They called them the same words they used for, like, sheep and goats. Because they were just totally complacent. They were grazing all day, hardly ever went hunting or fishing or did any fighting, and they didn't eat meat like humans. They were just these fucking weird, fat, soft cattle. And so that's how they talked about them, and they didn't feel bad killing them.
Your cheese and onions.
Yeah, dude. The Mongols, who were natural herders, they basically just apply that skill to the way that they fucking herd the peasants and use them.
Yeah.
They'll either get you to work, or they'll just drive you in front of the army to, like, catch arrows, or they'll fucking do this other thing, which was they'll just intentionally drive them out towards cities and send these, like, mobs of refugees towards, you know, whatever city they're going to conquer next. So next thing you know, that city, the population is swelling, the roads are choked, there's carts and people, and nothing can move. And the city population just doubled or tripled, and people are freaking out, and there's not enough food, and it's a fucking nightmare. Next thing you know, the Mongols show up. And they're like, oh yeah, we're here to fight. Oh, is this not a good time? Oh, weird. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, a humanitarian crisis? Oh, yeah, no, we did that on purpose.
So you guys have been low on your calories for the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I notice everybody in there looks kind of sick and tired. No, we feel good. We've been eating ass meat, so we're fucking ready.
I got some extra steaks here under my balls.
We're ready to rock. If you just give up, like, you can have some.
You can have some of my hot ball steak.
So they would also, another thing that they would do that was kind of fucked up is they would use peasants as human battering rams. Like, if they wanted to knock down a gate, they would just be like, hey, you 500 peasants, run at that until it breaks down.
Yeah.
They would just, like, make them slam their bodies against it. Which is horrifying. Even if they don't get the fucking gate down, the people inside are like, dude, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
God, they're throwing more people at us.
The peasants' dead bodies would, like, fill up rivers and moats so the Mongols could just ride across them like crazy shit. They zero regard for the lives of, like, unworthy fucking fatty foreign men, you know? Like us, they wouldn't have liked you and me.
Yeah.
What do you mean you make show on the internet? Like, send them to the slave pits.
But where do you keep your bow and ass meat?
How many cattle do you have and how many horses?
I don't see any steaks on that chair that you just stood up from.
Surely you've eaten your ass meat already then.
Yeah. A little early in the day for the saddle steak.
You just ate yesterday.
Yeah.
Fat, so fat.
Yeah. Are you drinking water?
3
with
meals?
Bubbles. Yeah, 3 meals.
So Mongol life and the lives of their allies are sacred, as I mentioned. But other life, I mean, you wouldn't be sad if you killed a goat. So why are you sad if you killed a peasant? You know
I'd
what
be
I mean?
sad if I killed a goat.
No, I know, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't be sad if they killed a goat. So they're not sad.
That's another notch against me.
You goat lover. So another fun thing is as the population of these cities swells and the food runs out, time and again these cities start resorting to cannibalism. So everybody in there is just eating each other. They're going insane. And they're mutinying against the nobles. They're killing the Jurched nobility. And they're just like turning the cities over to the Mongols. Because they're like, you guys can't stop them. What the fuck? So here are a few anecdotes from Weatherford that are brutal and kind of funny about fucked up ways that the Mongols like messed with. They're kind of funny. Like the thing about the Mongols is they're kind of funny. Like they do things to like deliberately fuck with their enemies and like laugh at them. And then they kill them all. It's really, they really like this. They like being at war. And,
look at the way the soft men eat each other.
It's fucking hilarious, dude. So
is he using a fork to eat his neighbor?
So in one episode here, the Mongols captured a Jurched dignitary en route to a city that is soon to be besieged. And they dressed one of their own guys up in his clothes and washed him up and got him looking nice like a Jurched noble. And they sent him to the city where he convinces them that that's who he is and he's here to help them before the Mongols come. And so he gets in and he starts telling everybody like, "Oh no, we beat the Mongols. You guys can dismantle your defenses.
That's awesome.
You can send all the men back to the fields, no issues." And finally they believed him, and once the city was totally defenseless, the Mongols just showed up and overnight fucking conquered, done.
Yeah.
In another fun episode, supposedly they went to a city and at the gates they said, if you bring us every bird and every cat that you can find in the city, we'll let you all live. And so everybody in the city hunts down every bird and every cat and they bring them all to the Mongols. And once the Mongols have them, they tied like torches to their tails and just let the animals loose back into the city, and they set the whole city on fire and fucking burned it down. Yeah. So whether either of these stories actually occurred is kind of irrelevant. It just sort of illustrates what I mentioned before about like the adeptness of the Mongols at creating propaganda, and even when they didn't create it, like embracing it. They loved when people made shit up about them. If it was a scary story and it made them seem like genius fucking evil villains, they were all about it. These dudes were like WWF heels, man. They loved a good story. They were great at mic work, and they knew how to fucking keep it real. And the more Jurched rulers that start hearing these stories and shitting their pants and thinking like, how could we possibly stop this? Great. It's a win. It's a win for the Mongols. And again, it just sort of ties up the point about victory is all that matters. Doesn't matter if you had to lie. Doesn't matter if you let an untrue story be told. Were you
cheat and steal?
Yeah, man.
Eddie Guerrero, baby.
Were you sneaky? It's true. They were kind of like Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, they were the Guerrero brothers. Yeah. Eddie and Chavo.
So, beginning in that Tangut campaign of a few years earlier, I mentioned that they had seen Chinese siege weapons. And now that they're in sort of China, or the outskirts of China, they want them. They want that stuff. Because, they can trick people and they can get into these cities and try the river trick and all that. But it would be super cool to have one of those, whatchamacallits that throws the rocks, the trebuchet or the catapult. Yeah. They want that stuff. And so they start kidnapping or recruiting.
I also would like a trebuchet.
It would be sweet. They start kidnapping and recruiting Chinese engineers. And they start putting these peasants to work building and manning trebuchets, catapults, ballistae, which are like those giant bows that shoot huge fucking arrows. And then they also had these super cool things from the Chinese called fire lances, which is basically just like a carved bamboo tube stuffed with gunpowder that you would ignite, and it would just like spit flames and sparks, and kind of like a flamethrower, but you more just use it like if cavalry's approaching. Horses don't really like fireworks being put off in their face, so you would just like light up the fucking flame lances.
Roman candle.
Yeah, and so they adopt all this shit, and within the span of this one campaign, they're using it. Like they all of a sudden they have siege towers, they have catapults, they have ballistae. Some of them they captured, but they also start building new ones, and they're good at it. They figure it out really quickly, and they realize how susceptible urban armies are to really simple step tactics that like probably wouldn't have tricked them, but they're like, these people are fucking stupid. They don't expect any of this stuff. It's like they want us to just march onto the field and fight them. Why would we fucking do that? That shit sucks. So they'll do things like something that they call like the falling star maneuver, where it's just like if you're in a city in a valley, this is best because you can like have dudes pour down the hills from like all directions and just charge at, you know, a city and like launch fucking arrows into the city or whatever, or a town or a camp or an army or whatever, and then just turn tail and fucking disappear, and then just leave. And you don't just keep doing it; you just do it once, and then for the next week, that group of men is like, when are they coming back? When are they coming back? Nobody sleeps. Everybody's freaked out, and you might come back, you might not. They love that shit. They love fake retreats. So one of Genghis Khan's generals, Jebe, was famous for being just quick and aggressive with his tactics, and he was like a master of the feigned retreat. So in the siege of the city of Liaoyang, Jebe is like harassing the gates, and then suddenly he calls a retreat, and everybody retreats, and they very sneakily drop a bunch of valuables behind them, and they retreat. They go out of sight, out of mind. And of course, you know, the armies from inside the city sort of run out ostensibly to pursue, but let's be honest, they start seeing a bunch of gold and silver.
They see some booty on the ground.
Yeah, and they're like, all right, let's start collecting that. And next thing you know, the whole battlefield is covered with people distracted, picking things up. The gates of the city have opened. People are trying to get carts and animals out to like collect as much as they can.
Yeah.
And then Jebe appears and he's like, all right, kill them all. And he fucking runs up and just murders everybody. And they're like, wait, but you ran away. You weren't supposed to come back. We thought we won.
Don't take backsies. Don't take backsies.
Yeah. And people...
And the thing is, take backsies.
Take backsies. And this legitimately shocked people. They weren't prepared for this. Because they were like, you're not supposed to run away. That's cowardly. And he's like, I don't know, man. You guys are all dead, so...
Actually, what's cowardly is getting an arrow in your gut while you're trying to pick up some gold.
Fucking, you were too worried about...
That's pretty dishonorable.
You were pretty worried about all that gold there. My guys, you know what they're worried about?
Ass steak.
Killing you guys.
Yeah, killing you.
So this shows the Mongols very quickly realized that the motivations that their motivations were radically different than the motivations of sedentary urban defenders. The defender's main goal is to drive away the attacker. A nomadic attacker's goal is to kill the enemy. So if you convince the defender that they've achieved their goal, they will let their guard down and give you the opportunity to achieve yours 100% of the time. So if you give them the smallest taste of victory and convince them that they've scared you away with your advanced weaponry and shit, they will let their guard down, and then you can just swoop in and kill them all. And it works over and over and over again. Because city people always think they're better than little country bumpkins from the steppe. They just assume, how could we not have scared them away? We're so great. Our city's so great. You know who doesn't give a fuck about cities? Genghis Khan.
Yep.
The legend about him is that he steps in one city ever in his entire life. He never sleeps in one. He spends every single night in a fucking tent of his entire life.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He thinks cities are fucking whack. But he wants all the good shit.
I bet he stepped in more than one.
Yeah, but the legend is that he stepped in one.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet. So it becomes clear at this point in the campaign, and I don't know if you guys are picking this up, but the Mongols are steamrolling the Jurchens. They're having a ball. They're having a good-ass fucking time.
Yeah.
And frankly, they probably could have wrapped this shit up in under a year. But they encounter what proves to actually be their biggest threat on campaigns like this. It's the climate.
Yeah.
They don't like the heat. And even in northern China, which we would all probably consider pretty temperate and cool, the Mongols are like, yo, what is this fucking lame-ass, like, warm bullshit? Like, the summer rolls along, and they are hating it. It is humid. Yeah. Their bows don't like the humidity. They're held together by natural glue, so the bows don't work as well. They lose tension. The guys start getting sick. So I mentioned how healthy all the Mongols are, but the downside of that is that people in cities, they live so close to each other. They have all these germs and diseases, and their immune system is really strong. The Mongols don't have that. They live far apart. They don't fucking sleep with their animals and shit. They're not as prone to, or they're much more prone to, they're not as immune to diseases as the city people are. So the summer months roll around and they're just like, all right, we got to take a break. So what they'll do is they'll fight in the fall and the winter and the spring, and then they retreat back to Inner Mongolia to make camp where the climate is more to their liking. And they just wait it out. They know the Jurchens aren't going to come after them. They're fucking licking their wounds. So they literally just party all summer. And they're like on vacation. They're on tour. So for 3 years they do this. Yep. They go and they fight. They conquer another city. They pick up more siege mechanics. They fucking learn shit. They're having a good time. And then they go back. They hang out in Inner Mongolia, and they fucking eat fucking good ass wild meat and drink milk and party. And then the year ends and it's time to go back.
Yep.
But by 1214, it's time to start wrapping things up. Genghis Khan hasn't been home for 3 years. He's been campaigning against the Jurched nonstop, obviously taking summers off to fucking rage. And so finally, it's time to besiege the Golden Khan's capital at Zhongdu, which again is modern Beijing. Mm-hmm. Spurred on by the disastrous defeats against the Mongols and the pressure of internal peasant revolts and royal revolts, a recent palace coup has actually overthrown the previous Jurched Khan, the one who initially demanded submission of Genghis. That has proven to be a pretty foolish decision. Everyone's kind of regretting that. Yep. And the new Golden Khan is like, I was elected based on my willingness to talk numbers with you guys. So he immediately is just like, yeah, I'm all good. Let's negotiate. And Genghis Khan's all about that. He likes to negotiate. If you come forth in good faith, he will hear your demands.
Yep.
So they call a meeting and they agree to a settlement that would have made the previous Golden Khan probably rethink sending that envoy in the first place if he knew how it was going to end up. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20. So they're given piles of silks and gold and silver and thousands of horses and 500 young men and women as slaves. And even one of the Khan's daughters goes to Genghis Khan as a little wifey.
Yep.
Now, perhaps most importantly, the Golden Khan acknowledges himself as a loyal, subservient vassal to the clearly superior Great Khan of the Steppe, our boy, Genghis Khan. And I don't know if you remember, but the initial idea was that Genghis Khan was supposed to come down here and bow to the Golden Khan. Now you got this motherfucker. To be the
one wearing knee pads.
Yeah,
now
man. Suddenly this motherfucker's putting on his chapstick.
Now you're polishing his knob down there. Huh?
Absolutely. And in response to this, the great and magnanimous Genghis Khan said, cool, sounds good.
Thanks for the blowjob, bud.
That rocked. Thank you very much. And he breaks off the siege, and he goes on his merry way.
Oh, how the turntables.
Over the course of the previous 3 years, he had allowed the Khitan to reclaim a good chunk of their former kingdom and set them up with a kingdom again. And the Jurched are now still in control, but they're ruling a much diminished kingdom of their own, which they're going to be allowed to keep. Ostensibly, each of these groups is just going to kind of balance each other out. They both have now sworn allegiance to Genghis Khan. And he doesn't really care to, like, personally administer. He's like, you guys can rule. That's what he does. He let the Tanguts and the Uyghurs continue to rule as long as the tribute keeps coming. And if I call you, you come fight for me.
Yep.
I want good shit and I want loyalty. I don't need to be in charge. You guys can handle your shit.
You can do this lame shit y'all like to do down here.
But look at me right now.
Whack ass food.
I'm the boss.
As long as you pick up the phone when I call.
When I call, you pick up the phone. I love that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
When Big Papa Genghis calls, you are never too busy.
Yeah. You got the time.
You got the time for Genghis.
Because I know you don't have the time for us to come back down here and do this again.
Nobody's got time for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we do.
I'll
be honest with you. This has been a blast.
I'm almost hoping you say no.
Yeah.
But,
I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
So, since it's already too hot, it's too late in the season to cross the Gobi, because the Gobi's a desert. I mean, it gets cold in the winter, but it does get very hot in the summer. So they also have to wait. The Mongols have to wait another summer to cross back before they can go home. But they head back up to Inner Mongolia. They figure, what's one more summer partying in Inner Mongolia? Then we'll take all of our booty and we'll head back home. This is the greatest haul that any Mongol Khan has ever brought back. People are going to fucking love us. They're going to think we're the shit. Everybody's going to be super happy. This was a total success. And most of his men are still alive. And he's also, if anything, he's got more men now, because a bunch of Han Chinese and Khitans and even Jurcheds have defected. They're like, this guy fucking rules. I want to fight for him. And so they do. So, unfortunately, city types are tricksy. So basically, as soon as Genghis Khan is out of sight, the Golden Khan is like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And he evacuates the entire city and moves his capital south to the city of Kaifeng. And he's basically assuming that that's far, and there's no way the Khan
does that have a modern-day equivalent? Kaifeng
might still be Kaifeng. Yeah, Kaifeng is just still Kaifeng.
Yeah. It's in central Hunan province.
Yep.
One of the 8 ancient capitals of China. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not that far from Beijing.
No.
It's still pretty close.
So he moved the court south to Kaifeng, and word of this reaches Genghis Khan. And without waiting for the Golden Khan to do anything else, he's like, why are you leaving? I liked where you were.
He raised that eyebrow.
Yeah, he's like, that smells like you're gonna try to betray me. So
That
rather
smells
than
like
being
some South Run bullshit.
yeah, and he's like, I'm not an idiot. I'm not gonna wait for you to fucking gather your strength and do some dumb shit. I'm coming back. So he tells his men, he's like, sorry, but the Golden Khan's being a punk. We gotta go set him straight. So they march on Zhongdu. They find that the Golden Khan has in fact left, and they said, well, we're already here, and you guys had it pretty good last time.
Yeah.
And so he looks at his men and he says, you fucking raise the city. Fucking pillage it. Everything. I want everything.
Yeah, he does the Lord help me, but it's time to go back to the old me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They made me choose violence.
Yeah. Just when I think I got out.
They pulled me back in.
Back in.
So, he basically looks at that city and he's like, I want everything. So at this point, in addition to, normal steppe nomads, I've mentioned that his army also includes Khitans, some Jurcheds, and there's actually a lot of Han Chinese that are just down to fight for the Khan. And so he looks at this city and he figures I don't really know the first thing about pillaging cities, but you guys can probably find all the good places where city people would hide their good shit. So he trusts one of his generals, who's one of the leaders of the Khitan, a guy named Kada. He says, Kada, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to leave you in charge of looting this city, and I want you to bring everything to me. So as we discussed in last episode, one of the reforms that Genghis Khan instituted was loot was now a standardized process. Everything went back to the Khan and then was redistributed evenly according to rank. So rather than every man scrambling to get his own shit, the Khan took a chunk and then he distributed it to his generals, who then distributed it to their guys, and so on and so forth. There's a certain amount that's set aside for the widows of people that are killed in battle. Everybody gets their fair share according to their role and what they do in the army. But either the memo didn't get to the Khitan and the Han that are now doing the looting, or they just didn't care, they didn't take it seriously. They just start running amok. And they start taking things, and they're not following orders. And the Mongol officials that were left behind to observe start taking bribes to let them do it. And finally, Genghis Khan at this point has made it back to Inner Mongolia, and he's like, what is taking so long? I want my stuff.
Yeah.
And so he sends Shigi Kutuku, who was a young Tartar boy who was his adopted brother, who is now the chief judge of the Mongols, sends him down to personally observe. And if Shigi Kutuku's showing up, you probably did something wrong.
Yep.
Because Genghis doesn't just send him to observe rudimentary things. Shigi Kutuku shows up, and you know that the eye of Sauron is upon you.
Yeah.
And he shows up, and can you believe it? The fucking Khitans look at him and they say, oh, do you want to bribe like these other guys? Do you look the other way? And Shigi Kutuku's like, do I want to bribe? Motherfucker, do you know how good I have it? Yeah. Absolutely not.
You just gave it all away, bud.
The Khan's going to hear about this, motherfucker. Yeah. And so he goes back to Inner Mongolia. And
he doesn't even say anything. They ask him for the bribe. He goes, just turns his horse around and just goes back.
All right. It's going to be like that then. So, no, really, it's like that. He's just like, okay, bad choice.
Made my job easy.
Yeah. All right, I didn't even have to judge shit. So he fucking turns around. He tells Genghis Khan, he's like, yeah, it's all kinds of mayhem down there. And word of what Genghis Khan did to the Khitans has not been preserved, but the sacred history says that they were stripped of their command of the looting, and they were sternly rebuked. So somebody definitely got fucking killed over that. Because you don't just break the laws of Genghis Khan. You just don't do it. Nope. And he's like, look, I'm fair. And all the Mongols are like, why do you guys have to do that? You're going to get fucking gold. He's a man of his word. I swear. I know it sounds unbelievable, but this guy, he follows through.
Yeah.
And so, they take all the money back, and I bet you a bunch of those looters didn't get any share of it. But I will tell you what, this earned him a lot of respect among the ranks. People loved him for it because he was a man of his word. And at this point, this is also worth mentioning, people are starting to whisper that maybe the Jurcheds and maybe not even the Song dynasty in the south, they might not have the mandate of heaven. Do you remember the Mandate of Heaven?
Oh, I know what the Mandate of Heaven is.
So to our listeners who might not remember, we talked a lot about the Mandate of Heaven in episodes 25 and 27 from the summer of 2021, which is crazy, which were our Opium Wars episodes. The Qing dynasty, who are the distant relatives of these same Jurcheds, were said to have lost the mandate when the British were able to just kind of run over them and take whatever they wanted. People are starting to say that about the Jurcheds, and they're worried about the song. They're like, you guys might not have like the backing of heaven behind you if Genghis Khan can just run through here and make you all look like fucking assholes.
Yeah.
He might have it. He might be like who heaven wants to rule these lands.
Yeah.
And so that's starting to kind of permeate, and people are just getting more and more, because not only is he great in battle, but they're seeing that he's also an able administrator. And I don't know, man. This guy's looking pretty good. Even if he is a smelly horse lord.
Yep.
The Mongols take over the looting. They make sure everything gets done the right way. And then on their way out of Jurched territory, they have one final mission. The Khan wanted this land, all this plowed, farmed land that had now been basically like desolated and had all of its peasantry run off and killed and whatever. He really likes the idea of there being more pasture and grassland south of the Gobi, because he's got plans to come back. He does want to find the Golden Khan. He doesn't like what he did. He doesn't like how he left the city. Not really his thing. He's like, I do need to go home. It's been 3 years. But, like, I want you guys to churn up all that farmland and let nature reclaim it. Because when I come back, I want grass for my horses, baby. Because I am coming back with
a lot of horses.
A lot of horses next time. So he's not done with this area, but he's like, I'm going to go home. But I want you to... So they trample all the farmland with their horses and basically destroy all of the fields, and with the idea being that the grasslands will return. And next time he comes back, he means business.
Yep.
So throughout 1215 and 1216... Genghis Khan and his army slowly set out to return to their home steppe, laden with unimaginable riches, totally unprecedented in the history of steppe khans raiding the south. Now, they already had the greatest haul of all time, but now that they've gone back and sacked Chengdu after the Golden Khan ran away, they have like doubled their earnings from the whole war. Because, I mean, the Golden Khan left and didn't take anything with him, so they raided his palaces, all the fucking houses, everything. Anything that wasn't tied down, and some things that were... have been taken back. Silk, especially, flows into the Mongolian steppe, and there's so much of it that in the span of just a couple years, the Mongols not only are all wearing silk, but they've started using silk to like make ropes. They use it as just like bags to carry other shit in. They have so much silk that they don't even know what the fuck to do with it. They are silk in colors that they don't even have words for. Shit that they've never seen before in their lives. Embroidered, colored, covered in beautiful pictures of flying birds and flowers and whatever. So they are just drowning in silk. Rugs, clothing, slippers, tapestries, anything you can imagine. But also gold, silver, precious stones, every single piece of jewelry you can possibly imagine. Combs and goblets and whatever. Lacquered wooden furniture, porcelain vases, metal armor and weapons, makeup, medicine, spices, salt, honey. All of the luxuries that a steppe nomad could desire and things that they've never even dreamed of. Suddenly, just the poorest Mongol has access to all of this. And on a level that they can't even imagine. They're just flooded with riches. And then that's not to mention the number of people that they bring back. There's musicians, engineers, craftsmen, clerks, physicians, architects, acrobats. Basically anybody interesting or trained in any kind of useful skill. The Khan just sent out a directive, like, anybody that seems worth it, just grab them, bring them back, whether they want to or not. Like, we're bringing them back. Tailors, translators, priests of 100 different religions, astrologers, magicians, mystics, psychics. They're all drawn now to the epicenter of Genghis Khan's personal universe. Every Mongol warrior could dress himself in embroidered silks and hang golden ornaments in his hair, could paint his wife with exotic makeup and perfume his home with beautiful scents. It's prosperity on an immediate and grand scale. And you know what? It's not enough. Giving its people a taste of these things sparks an immediate desire for more. Because you know what? It wasn't even hard getting it. That's what they all keep saying. They're like, you would not fucking believe how easy it was to have all of this. How come we didn't have this longer, and how come we don't have more?
Yep.
His people had now seen this for themselves, and the floodgates were opened. Plus, there's been word from the north. The Siberians that they had subjugated, they've stopped paying tribute. And word has it that they've organized under a new female chieftain, and that they've kidnapped a bunch of Mongol emissaries. So now he's got to go deal with that. And then in the west, there's Muslim Uyghurs who are chafing under their Buddhist lords, and they're basically begging the Khan to come and fucking liberate them and rule over them. Uyghurs fucking love Genghis Khan. They love him.
Yeah.
And beyond them, there's the land of the sultans, with unimaginable riches, along with the vast knowledge of the cosmos that has yet to be seen. But the Mongols realize that they like this technology stuff that all of a sudden they're getting into, and they keep hearing that these Muslims have created wonders that the human mind can't comprehend. And so they're like, oh, that's sounding pretty good too. If they're as pussy as these jerkheads, I mean, why not? Let's learn algebra, baby.
It's free real estate.
Right? It is free real estate.
Yeah.
And then plus, there's still the traitorous Jurched Khan, and beyond him, the Song dynasty. And if the Jurcheds could have taken that land from the Chinese, and we could take all that land from the Jurcheds, why don't we go fight the Song? Now, without getting too far ahead of myself, the Song dynasty is still no fucking joke. And the Jurcheds could not have taken them on if they tried. So Genghis Khan has his work cut out for him. And some of these sultans in the Middle East are also no fucking joke.
Yeah.
Right? But he's getting these ideas, and he's thinking to himself, I'm 53 years old, and all of a sudden it seems like my future is still completely ahead of me. I could do all these things. And where before he never had these global ambitions, and he still kind of doesn't. I mean, by all accounts, he kind of frames things as like one battle after another. But it's just starting to seem like there's more and more battles to fight. And if he's this good at winning, why not fight them?
Yeah.
Like, if that's my destiny, who am I to deny that? So suddenly, the future's looking brighter than ever.
Yeah, everything's coming up, Genghis.
Everything is coming up, Genghis. And so that's it for episode 6 of the Mongols. And from here on out, it's basically a race to see how many things Genghis Khan can conquer before he kicks the bucket.
Yeah.
And, spoiler alert, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so there's still plenty to see. And he's on world tour. We'll just say that. Genghis Khan has left the home nest, and he is...
No.
He's on world tour.
Correct.
And that's it.
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah, man. I feel pretty good about it. Well, thank you guys for listening. We are excited for 2024. We've got lots of cool things in the tank ready for you guys. Yep. And like I said, I'm going to try to crank out at least a few more Mongols episodes kind of back to back so that the series doesn't get stretched out. Because back in September, that's a long time ago. To reiterate, you can find all of our series episodes. Do you want to hear more about Evan's history of the kings of Britain? You can find that in there. It's in there. They're all in order. It's called LU Series, and it's right on Spotify. Also, all of the songs that we use, those are on a playlist called LU Rippers. You can find that if you're ever curious. Hey, what's a song from the show? They're all on there. Also, you can find us on Patreon. This is going to be the year where we we did kind of like a soft launch of the Patreon in 2023 just to get it rolling and see how it worked and everything. But I think this is going to be the year where we really try to have that take off. So, send us feedback. We would love to hear from you guys on like what sort of things would inspire you to join the Patreon, what kind of content you'd be interested in. Because I think 2024 is the year where we're thinking about trying to implement some of that stuff. And
that's at patreon.com/leftunread.
Most of our stuff is Left Unread Pod, but that is just Left Unread. And the links to all of that stuff will be in the show notes as always. But yeah, seriously, I'm not joking about that. If you guys have feedback on like what would be, worth it to you as a listener of this show, we want to hear that because that's what we want to do, and we would love to have that turn into like a more, I don't want to say worthwhile because I think it's worthwhile already, but
Yeah.
Worth it to you. We want it to feel like it's worth it to you. If you're giving us your money, we know how hard you work for that because we work just as hard for what little we have. Yep. And so we want to work hard for your money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
it would be nice for this to be a little bit more sustainable. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
So let us know either by email or on Twitter or whatever, and we will take all ideas into consideration.
Correct.
Unless you want us to start doing like yaoi stuff with each other, because we already do that, but it is not. It's just for fun.
That's personal,
private
little interface.
We call it team building.
Yeah.
So, all right, Evan, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I don't.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys as always for joining us. We love you all dearly, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Left Unread.